We are yet to see the full tale to be told by 2021, but the 2020 picture is clear. And today we zoom in on one frame, that corner mapped out by sand, sea, sun, and experiences. I'm talking tourism. We're also talking face-to-face learning and the toolkit for road safety. Hi everyone, I'm Theodore Henry. Jamaica Magazine is made for you, so welcome and enjoy.
Want to know more about the National Identification System? Have queries or concerns? Let your voice be heard. Take part in a virtual town hall meeting on the National Identification and Registration Bill 2020. That's the virtual town hall meeting on the National Identification and Registration Bill 2020 on Wednesday, January 13 on CVM Television and Power 106 FM between the hours of 5:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. You may also join the discussion on Thursday, January 14 on TVJ and Nationwide 90 FM from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Catch the virtual town hall meeting on all PBCJ platforms on January 13 and 14. Join us and learn how Jamaica will be part of the digital society.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, January 13, 2021. The Ministry of Health and Wellness says it is closely monitoring a spike in the number of COVID-19 cases in St. Ann and Manchester. In Parliament Tuesday, Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said the parishes were showing signs of uncontrolled spread. As at January 11, St. Ann has 75 active cases, while Manchester has 68, equating to the island's first and second highest infection rates.
The health departments in those parishes have already begun to ramp up prevention activities with testing and contact tracing, especially for the vulnerable populations. Community interventions, which are key components of the response, have also been initiated with activities in town centres and in at-risk communities.
Minister Tufton says the country will be updated on further actions that may be required. Up to January 11, Jamaica has recorded 13,760 COVID-19 cases and regrettably 315 deaths. In the meantime, interventions to curtail the spread of the virus in Westmoreland has resulted in a marked reduction of cases in the parish. Westmoreland has been under special COVID-19 containment measures since December 16. Among them, tighter curfew hours and a reduction in public gathering limits. But Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton told the House of Representatives Tuesday that thanks to the ministry's intervention, an extension of enhanced restrictions would no longer be required beyond January 15.
The interventions have resulted in the reduction in reported cases to 51 active cases as of January 11th, 2021. The total occupancy at the Savalanamar Hospital is now 56% for isolation, a reduction from as high as 80% reported in December.
Dr. Tufton commended councillors and the members of Parliament who used their influence to curb the behaviour and urged citizens to maintain the COVID protocols. In other news, more families will get a chance to benefit from the Own Your Own Device OYOD incentive program when it reopens on Monday, January 18. The program provides parents or guardians with an electronic voucher, e-voucher, valued at $20,000 to purchase devices from an approved vendor. Applications for the program were first received between November 17 and December 4, 2020. Education Minister Fable Williams says this reopening is to facilitate persons who had difficulty applying last year.
We want all 36,000 families to have a device in the home. We will reopen to give others, especially those having the TRN or SRN issue, a chance to have the ministry work with them on those issues. While this is happening, the distribution of e-vouchers will commence in January.
While speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, Minister Williams said the program had already met 49% of its target. Persons experiencing difficulties with the OYOD platform may contact 888-EDUCATE. That's 888-338-2283. By the end of the month, every child in state care will receive a device to ensure they can fully engage in digital learning. That's the word from the State Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Robert Morgan. He was speaking at the handing over of 200 tablets to wards of the state on January 12.
And that's a way for the government to basically bring equity within the society where children in rural communities, in poor communities, children in state care do not feel as if they're lesser than, but feel that the government is working to ensure that they too have the tools so that they can uplift themselves.
These new devices fall under the government's One Laptop or Tablet per Child initiative. They will be distributed by the Child Protection and Family Services Agency across 51 government and private homes that house more than 4,600 children. The Prime Minister and National Security Minister have condemned Monday's fatal shooting of 4-year-old Chloe Brown of Freeman's Hall, Trelawney. Chloe was killed and her father injured during a dispute between her father and uncle. 2 persons have since been arrested and charged in relation to the matter. In a release, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said he was crushed by the news of Chloe's death. He called on all Jamaicans to use mediation and dispute resolution platforms to handle disagreements. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang also called on families to resolve their disputes without resorting to violence. And finally, 272,710 timber, ornamental and fruit tree seedlings have been distributed under the government's 3 Million Trees in 3 Years initiative. The Forestry Department, which is administering the program, has planted 194,284 seedlings under regular forest operations. The department has also distributed 78,426 seedlings to the public for planting. The program, which started in October 2019, will see a tree being planted for every Jamaican as part of the state's strategic response to climate change. It's expected that 3,000 hectares of land will be forested with timber seedlings by the Forestry Department. The remaining 1 million timber, ornamental and fruit seedlings will be distributed to the public for planting. Persons who wish to participate in the planting program may contact the Forestry Department at 876-618-3205 or visit 173 Constant Spring Road. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
"2020 was challenging all around, but tourism was particularly affected. Let's see how the Ministry of Tourism met the challenge and kept this critical economic earner afloat and poised for growth.
Coming up, the top 5 highlights of the Ministry of Tourism in 2020. Resilience. That was the hallmark of Jamaica's tourism industry during a tumultuous year. Major flights resumed service to the country. Among them, American Airlines, Delta, JetBlue, United, Southwest, Air Canada, WestJet, British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, and Copa.
A nice beginning to restore the growth levels that the industry had over the years.
Also early within the year, the historic town of Port Royal in Kingston welcomed its first cruise ship, the Marella Discovery 2.
Mr. Speaker, there is no question that tourism has been hard hit. Now we have something we've never seen before, COVID-19, that is hitting us. But I'm telling you today that the resilience of tourism will go through this period, manage, recover, and thrive afterwards.
In the fight against COVID-19, the ministry implemented a number of measures to mitigate the effects from the fallout in the industry. There was a provision of more than 500 protective kits for small operators and 10,000 masks for frontline workers. As hotels shuttered and planes were grounded, more than 5,000 hotel workers went back to school, receiving international certification in a variety of areas such as law and food preparation.
We have ensured that all categories of workers, those both who are in furlough as well as those who are laid off, have had access to training in one area or another.
On June 15, tourists returned to the island for the first time in 3 months. That was a success, as Jamaica's industry was one of the first to welcome guests since the outbreak of the global pandemic.
Preliminary figures from the JTB indicate that since reopening on June 15, we have recorded a little over 200,000 stopover arrivals to the country.
What paved the way for the reopening of the industry was the Resilient Corridor program, an initiative unique to Jamaica. So successful was the program that by year-end, there were no known COVID-19 cases within the designated areas.
We have in tourism developed 5 critical guidelines for the reopening of the industry. And the first is to develop a robust health and security protocol with dealing with our local as well as international partners, and a set of protocols, in fact, which could stand both local and international scrutiny.
Locals were not left out. With the Rediscover Jamaica campaign, there was a surge in staycation as Jamaicans were enticed to soak up the local deals.
This initiative will continue to reduce the impact caused by the fallout from a decline in international tourism receipts and ensure continued buoyancy of the sector until some semblance of normalcy returns. It has been a great success, with some hotels reporting up to 50% to 60% occupancy from local bookings.
Another first for the global tourism industry coming from the ministry team was the Jamaica Cares Health Insurance Program. The end-to-end program guaranteed the health security and safety of tourists who fly to Jamaica.
They will be able to come to the country, ensure that their testing is done. Whatever health requirements are needed while they are here on island will be covered. And if they are ill and become seriously ill, in fact, there is repatriation arrangement as a plane will be on the AM tarmac ready and appropriately appointed with paramedical arrangements to take them back to their destination.
Within its COVID-19 response, the ministry also provided more than $2 billion in funding to small and medium tourism enterprises, SMTEs.
SMTEs also play an integral role in helping us to retain higher earnings on each dollar on the supply side by strengthening linkages. Unfortunately, this very important group has been significantly displaced by COVID-19. In fact, data has shown that the small and medium tourism enterprises have recorded fallout of an average of $2.5 million.
Temporary cash transfers were provided to businesses registered with the Jamaica Tourist Board, operating in the hotel, tours, and attractions subsectors. In 2020, the ministry rolled out the Tourism Workers' Pension Scheme, managed by the government and private sector. Registration for the contributory scheme commenced on October 1. The Tourism Linkages Network delivered the 2nd annual Jamaica Health and Wellness Tourism Conference last year, live-streamed on YouTube and Facebook. The 2-day event gathered industry stakeholders to discuss a plan for the new future.
We are the safe destination. We are the healthy destination. We are the destination that is concerned about the physical and mental well-being of everyone, including our visitors who come.
The Linkages Network also developed a COVID-19 safety manual for Jamaican spas, the first of its kind in the region. Innovative measures, strong signs of rebound, and programs to secure the health and safety of workers and visitors. The Ministry of Tourism, a resilient team in the year 2020.
We started off the year in good stead, and COVID came and destroyed a number of our markets.
A global pandemic and heavy rains posed challenges. but the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries was successful in keeping the sectors afloat. Join us on Thursday, January 14 to get an extensive look at the Ministry's 2020 achievements.
School is back in session, has been for over a week now, and while most students are getting their lessons remotely, some from 129 schools across the island have been approved for face-to-face learning. Let's see why and how the Ministry of Education is implementing this limited transition back to traditional teaching methods during this new normal brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Formal education is compulsory. School is a requirement. School started January 4th. Schools are in session regardless of whether you're doing it remotely or using the learning kit or using audiovisual or face-to-face. At Central Ministry, we have done our risk assessment of the schools, all the schools across Jamaica. Then we layer on top of that the ministry's own physical inspections. Of course, the Ministry of Health and Wellness would not give a school a satisfactory grade unless it meets all of its checklist items. All schools should consistently have the same protocols, right, in terms of how children come into the compound, ensuring that they have their masks, temperatures are taken and recorded, that they're sanitized. When they go into the classroom, they're observing social distance. Those are protocols for every single school across Jamaica that should be observed. There should be no breakdown at schools. It's not anything that we will tolerate, and that's why we do the spot check-in of schools. You have or EOs or regional officers that will pop on to the schools to ensure that all the protocols are observed. We wanted to see how well the schools were observing the COVID protocols, and I've been pleased so far in terms of the visits to schools. They have been careful. You can see where they have been planning for this moment of face-to-face, and it gives confidence that students who are here on the compound physically are here safely.
And we are also mindful that in having them in, we have to take into consideration the health safety. And so we have tried our best to put everything in place. If you look, we have our sanitization stations, we have our social distancing marker on the floor. You know, as these children come in, they have not seen their friend for a while. So we have to be there guiding them as how to maintain social distance.
We're still doing the other types of learning, virtual learning kits and so on, but we're just trying to see how much we can have more children at the school plant engaging face-to-face with the teachers.
And we are so glad for the opportunity of going face-to-face, because when we look at our data that we had last term, we realized that more than 45% of our students had no devices or internet connectivity, and so they were left behind. So with this opportunity to come in now for face-to-face, we were very, very grateful for that.
Again, I want to remind parents, teachers, principals that all the approaches are still available. For those students who are not here physically, they can still be online accessing their lessons.
The government has been trying a lot to get as much devices out as possible. We've been working with the telecommunications companies to try and get a better internet service. We have made the Google suite that we're using zero rated, so you don't need to pay to access the learning kits, to access the learning suite. So we really do not have a lot of excuse to not allow our children to be engaged.
Schools are allowed to look at their student body and plan for the student body in terms of allowing some classes to come on certain days. They're allowed to do rotation. They're allowed to do the blended approach, because we know that all students cannot be back on the school compound at the same time. So we're encouraging the flexibility. We're encouraging principals and teachers to use a combination of face-to-face and online. We are in a pandemic. It's not business as usual, and so we've made all these different options available to the schools, and we're imploring them to use these options. We have high expectations for the students that they will be able to continue their education.
With more of our children back on the streets heading to and from school, this message is even more important. Motorists, this next feature is just for you.
It could be the cause of a traffic holdup, disturbing the smooth movement of vehicles. It could be the cause of your arrest or punishment, where, depending on the degree of your offense, you're likely to be fined or jailed. It could be the cause of your physical injury, or that passerby having one less leg to depend on. Or it could be the cause of your life or someone else's. If you're realizing the grisly pattern here, then now would be the time to practice road safety. Road safety implies that measures are in place to limit or prevent road crashes or injuries to users of these thoroughfares. Road users include motorists, vehicle passengers, motorcyclists, and pedestrians. Measures for their safety include things like road signs, road codes, or even physical infrastructure.
On the traffic network, we have various road signs. So we have mandatory signs, and we have warning signs, and we have informational signs. So the warning signs are basically those signs that tell you that there is some impediment ahead, there is some issues ahead. So you'll see those are normally in the yellow and the black. So they will tell you that there's a traffic light ahead, there's an intersection ahead, there is a corner ahead, and there are other physical features ahead, or bridge, etc. We have the mandatory sign. These are signs that must be obeyed. If you disobey them, just know that you will be issued a traffic ticket. Those signs are normally red. They normally have a red in them. So keep your money in your pocket by obeying those red signs. So they are normally red and white, or red, white, and black. So that's the common feature of those. Then you will see the signs that are informational. Some of them are blue, some are green. Those just tell you where you must go, how many kilometers away you are from a particular township or location.
Now, after you've had a careful look at road signs as you go along, knowing and understanding the road codes becomes just as important. For us, we've seen people disobey some of those rules more than others.
One of the critical road rules that we must understand is that you see the speeding thing that we love, we need to cut it out. The faster you are going, and if you are involved in a collision, the speed at which the vehicle is going, that's the speed your internal organs are going. That's scientific laws, kinetic energy. The other one, serious risk factor, is the whole matter of not wearing helmet and wearing seatbelt. We have had too many drivers and passengers of motor vehicles parachuting out of motor vehicles. Another risk factor that's out there is the whole matter of cell phone usage. Those things can be distracting, right? So we need also to minimize that as best as possible.
Physical infrastructures have also been implemented to ensure a safer passage on our roadways. Observing all these measures becomes necessary because of the severe impact that disregarding them can and have had on our nation's people.
The numbers are always alarming because for a little country like us, and we're gone 178 days, that's pathetic. But last year this time it was 218. Now it's 178, 40 less. These crashes tend to occur on the road surfaces that are nicely laid. That is not to say that they don't occur on the bad roads, the road infested with potholes and bad. I'm not saying that. There are few occur on there, but majority of these fatal crashes are occurring on the nicely laid road sections. And when we look at what contributes to the crashes, we are seeing the human behavior being perpetuated. And we are losing a lot of our young people because of this situation. Must wear our seatbelt, wear our helmet. We have seen over 178 people dead already. Many were not wearing their protective gear. We know that. So we need to reduce those risk factors. We have been giving away our lives on the road, giving it away. 54 motorcyclists dead, all males, many of whom have their family members who they are living for. COVID-19 has caused us to recognize the importance of following rules and regulations in order to try to keep ourselves safe. Because of COVID-19, the spiral of crashes that we were expecting to occur at night, it has reduced dramatically. But what we have seen is that there is still cause for concern because in the day, COVID-19 has not caused drivers to be more careful as they drive on the road. Let us use that same impetus and spirit of wanting to live through Corona to wanting to live as we drive on the road and not put ourselves at risk and not put other people at risk. Let us try to be each other's keeper in this season.
So, while on the road, let's help to protect her life, his life, their lives, and our lives.
This is where Jamaica Magazine wraps today. Our Year in Review series continues tomorrow, so be sure to join us then, same time on this same station. Of course, all our programs are uploaded to the JIS YouTube channel and our website, jis.gov.jm. Visit us there and on all the social media platforms. Until next time, I'm Theodore Henry, on behalf of the entire production team, saying thanks for your company and take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.